Hi everybody. Today we'll discuss the common parts of partial abscess of teeth, indication for orthopedic treatment with removable partial dentures, objective methods for studying the tissues of the prosthetic field, types of removable dentures, their positive and negative properties, structural parts of removable dentures, borders of prostheses of the upper and lower jaws. Classification. First, we'll discuss classification of mucosal compliance, and this classification depends on thickness of mucosal layer, and this depends on what type of partial removable dentures you have to choose. Yes. The first is the up to 0.5 millimeter, it's small. Up to 0.9 millimeters, it's average. And above 0.9 millimeters, it's large. At the upper jaw, the amplitude leaves from the limits from 0.6 to 1.5 millimeters. And in the lower jaw, the mandible, it will be from 0.2 to 0.6 millimeters. Lund. It's a name of scientists. He identifies 4 zones, taking into account the degree of compliance of the mucosal membrane. The first, the area of the sagittal suture at the medial fibrous zone that doesn't have the submucosal layer. Second one, alveolar process, peripheral fibrous zone without submucosal layer. The third one, the region of the transverse palatine folds is covered with a mucosal membrane with an average degree of compliance. And the fourth part, the posterior third of the hard palate, has a submucosal layer, has the greatest degree of compliance. Supply divides mucosal into 4 classes. Slightly pliable, dense mucosal with natural folds far enough from the top of the alveolar process. Bridles of the lips, tongue, buccal bands. The second one, dense, thinned, atrophied mucosa, it's not very good. Covering the alveolar processes and the palate with a thin layer. The places of attachment of its natural folds are closer to the top of the alveolar process. The third one, is a loose mucosal membrane covering the alveolar process and the posterior third of the hard palate, or often a low alveolar process. And the fourth one, the mucosal membrane, the movable strands of which are located longitudinally and are easily displaced with a slight pressure on the impression mass. The mucosa of the atrophied alveolar process with a more protruding soft crest. This is the worst variant for removable denture. And if you can, you need to remove these movable strands of mucosal membrane before with a surgical protocol before you make impressions from it. There are three groups of prostheses. It's physiological. This is crown. This is bridges. This is semi-physiological. This is art prostheses, so-called, including these elements which divides the chewing pressure between your patient's teeth and gum. And then non-physiological, this is the third part, this is the removable dentures. When your chewing pressure, your patient's chewing pressure transferred only to gingiva, types of prosthesis. The first one is immediate. The prosthesis is applied to the prosthetic bed, prosthetic field no later than 24 hours later, immediate prosthesis. Nearest. The prosthesis is applied during the wound healing period, but no later than 2 weeks after the operation. And remote, and after the end of the formation of the alveolar process. Indications for orthopedic treatment with removable partial dentures. I'm sorry. With defects in the dentition that can't be restored by prosthesis with bridges. With defects in the dentition of all cases according to Kennedy classification. And the violation of the occlusal relationship of the dentition, the prosthesis performed the function of a bite plate orthodontic treatment. The need to create horizontal unloading splinting processes. Then the refusal of patients from prosthetics with non-removable structures. Replacing an old functionally untenable prosthesis with a new one. With galvanosis, allergic reactions of the body to the metal prosthesis. And here you can see the next one. This is contraindications for using the partial removable dentures. The first one, it's in the case of an allergic reaction to plastic and its components. In case of diseases of the oral mucosa, if they cannot be therapeutically stopped. In patients with schizophrenia, epilepsy, and alcoholism. Examination with a partial absence of teeth. Here, there are several methods. This is subjective, when you ask your patient for complaints and ask him for analysis of his illness. Then the next one, this is objective examination. This is a physical examination. Here, with the help of visual study, you check manifestation of signs of the disease on the face due to the absence of teeth, the nature of the and degree of mouth opening, the state of the temporomandibular joint, changes of the oral mucosa, topography of the defect, changes in the dentition. Height of clinical crowns of the abutment teeth, the degree of atrophy and the shape of the crest of a layer process, the presence of exostosis bone protrusions. Then this is percussion of oral palpation. Here another objective part of your examination. And then you use instruments or you use additional methods if you need them. This is an X-ray, or it can be ultrasound check. And then here are laboratory methods. It's galvanometry, myography, laboratory. It's not so frequently used, but we did it. But we do it sometimes. The side effects of partial removable dentures is expressed in the transfer of masticatory pressure on the tissues of the prosthetic bed. So, or why they called non-physiological? Because you don't include your patient's own teeth into the dividing into the spreading of your chewing pressure, and which is an inadequate irritant for the mucous membrane and causes circulatory disorders and tissue atrophy from the mucosa and alveolar process. But here's going compensation in the mucous membrane, and those people who have partial removable dentures for more than 1 year, they have a thickness of this mucous membrane much more thicker than people who have no this removable dentures. About it can be 5 times, 6 times more. Inflammatory changes in the mucous membrane, the formation of pathological pockets, development of cervical caries and the teeth adjacent to them, violation of taste, tactile, temperature, sensitivity, the process of self-purification of the mucosa, increasing its hyperesthesia, changes especially at first of speech and diction. But this is not the main problem. This is not the main problem, and I think speech is normalized up to 2, 3, 4 days, not more. Traumatizing by clasps of partial removable dentures, abutment teeth, which leads to a functional overload of the periodontium to their loosening. And the need for additional cares and skills to use them. Low strength and functionality, chewing efficiency about 45%. Here is design features of partial removable dentures, lamellar dentures, not arch prostheses, just lamellar dentures. Here we can see here are the basis of the processes. It's a plate made of plastic or metal. It can be only from metal. It can include metal into the plastic, on which artificial teeth, and devices clasps for holding processes in the mouth are attached. The basis of the prosthesis is located on the alveolar process of the lower jaw and on the upper jaw. In addition, also in the palatinum. Chewing pressure from artificial teeth is transmitted through it to the mucous membrane of the prosthetic field. Materials that are used for the manufacturing of bases for removable dentures. First, this is acrylic plastics, polyurethane, thermoplastics, and metal. Types of thermoplastics: nylon. Nylon is very frequently used, very widely used. Yes. Material based on polyoxymethylene. Materials based on polypropylene. Then methyl methacrylate and ethylene vinyl acetate. Nylon materials: flexite, flexinylon, flexipaste, very widely spread, especially made in Israel, or made in Holland, in Netherlands. It's very common used. Then this is acetyl. This material is based on polyoxymethylene. It have a very good feature that we can use not only for bases but also for arc. But this arc is not so hard that which made from metal. Yes. Then polypropylene, lipol. Then materials methyl methacrylate. This is acrid-free, brown flexite. And ethylene benzyl acetate, this is perflex and flexity. The design of the plate processes is determined by from the preserved teeth. It depends on types of defect. Yes, the degree of atrophy of the alveolar process, the severity of the arc of the hard plate, uh, the presence of a torus on the plate, and mucosal compliance. Requirements for the basis of the partial removable dentures. Don't have a harmful effect on the body. Reliable, withstand mechanical stress. Resist the chemical effects of oral fluid. Good to fix and not move. And transfer chewing pressure. Here you can see two types. This is non-physiological and semi-physiological. This part in the upper row, this is semi-physiological. This includes acetal, so-called. It can be also spin bases and white arc. There are three types of colors of white color. Yes, A1, A2, A3, and you can use it for arc processes. Here's also semi-physiological processes, but this element in acetal is not so hard as this element, this fixing element, which spreads your patient's chewing pressure from gingiva to remained teeth. It's not so hard as this one. And here we can see non-physiological. It's from, for example, nylon, and here's no metal clasp, no metal fixation elements, which highly increases its aesthetic qualities. Types of clasp. Here I will send you this lecture, and here you can see everything about different types of clasps. Many of these ones are not used now because we often use these new materials and these are processes. But I think you can get acquainted with it. Clasp function here, two parts. This is stabilizing, this prevention of lateral shifts, and retaining, fixing, prevention of slipping of the processes from the prosthetic field. Components of the clasp, First, shoulder. Then the next one is a body, and then a sprout. It's designed for fastening the clasp into the prosthesis. Yes. It's located along toothless alveolar ridge, 1.5 millimeter away from it, under artificial teeth. On your practical classes, you will try to make this one. It's no problem. You will try one time, two times, three times, and I think you will be successful in it. Then requirements for clasp systems. It provides fixation for the same extent on all abutment teeth. Eliminates tipping of or rotation of the prosthesis. Minimally violates aesthetic standards. And clasp system should not create traumatic occlusion. Dental alveolar clasps or clamors, yes. This process of the bases, the same color, absolutely. The prosthesis from the vestibular side and directed towards the natural teeth. Indication for use: high crowns of supporting teeth. In cases where the teeth limiting the defects are parallel to each other, and contraindications: low clinical crowns and overhanging alveolar process, since the latter makes difficult to apply the processes. And here the combined. Let's return to this one. Here we can use combined fixation. First, we use this one, but here's the vestibular parts of clasps, vestibular parts. And when your patient smiles, they can be in the range vision, yes. And here, when you can use, for example, nylon material for this. You use metal arc, and this is nylon material, and you can replace this only this part, not this one, and not internal part. Only this external part. You can replace it by this one, and it will. This function will not highly decreased, but your patient's aesthetic will highly increase. Okay, let's return. Classification of artificial teeth by material: porcelain, plastic, metal. By location and the dentition, front, side. According to the method of attachment in the basis of the processes: mechanical, typical for porcelain teeth, and chemical, typical for plastic teeth. We need to say that about the most frequently used, the most widely used type of artificial teeth is a plastic teeth. But here are two very different types of fixation. This artificial teeth in the processes, because if acryl materials are chemically connected to this artificial teeth, and nylon material and many others don't have chemical connection, it's only mechanical connection. So you need to make a hole, make a hole from the both parts of your artificial tooth, and then when you replace your wax model to the nylon basement, this nylon will flow into this hole and fix this artificial tooth to the basement. And this is a very, very big difference between acrylic processes, for example, and thermoplastic materials. Here you can see different types of artificial teeth. Then here is so-called cramponing. It's don't frequently used. I think you don't do them. The border of the boundaries of the bases passes along the vestibular side of the edentulous alveolar process of the upper jaw along the transitional fold, bypassing the frenulum and the movable strands of the mucosous membrane. The posterior border of the upper jaw show not to overlap line A. They have a semilunar notch on the upper jaw. The bases cover the alveolar tubercles. After lost molars or seventh teeth. And on the lower jaw, the basis overlaps at the mucosous tuberculus also. In the anterior part of the upper jaw, the border may change depending on the severity of the alveolar ridge. The anterior teeth on the palatal side are overlapped by a thickness of 2 mm plastic. The lateral teeth overlap by 2/3 of the crown height, so they overlap the equator and are located above, below their chewing surface. Criteria for a correctly fit removable denture. Tight fit on the basis of the transitional fold, in the area of the A-line or to the bottom of the mouth. There are no obvious painful phenomena under the basis of the prostesis. The correct position of the elements of the clamor of the support tooth. Tight contacts of natural and artificial teeth. There is no overage of the occlusion height. Correspondence of color, shape, and size of natural and artificial teeth. Positive properties of plate prostesis. They are easily removed from the oral cavity by the patient himself. This allows him to monitor oral hygiene and the cleanliness of the prosthesis itself. Restoration of a defect in the dentition. Negative properties of plate dentures. Transfers pressure during chewing to the underlying mucous membrane and bone tissue. Fragility of the prosthesis leading to the frequent fractures and cracks. Decreased or impaired tactile sensitivity of the oral cavity, which plays a protective role. Decreased taste sensations and perception of thermal stimuli, which can lead to burns. When using a partial removable denture, a change in diction and speech is observed for the first time. Adaptation occurs during the first 3 days. Yes, but almost full adaptation is about 30 or 33 days. It includes three periods. We will speak about it on the practical classes. And seventh, gradual destruction of the crown of the tooth on which the clasp is located. Here is immediate prostesis. Here it is. And the first advantage of this one is that if your patient have a bad tooth here, which you are going to extract, you don't need to extract it first and then make an impression. You can make an impression from the jaw with this tooth. Then your dental technician casts noodle, and then he cut it off from gypsum, this bad tooth, and make this immediate processes just in time when your patient will extract this tooth will be extracted. This tooth will be extracted, and have an anesthesia for the first time. It's very good, and surgeon extracts this tooth, and then he sends your patient back to you, and you already have it. And I think it can be in 20 minutes from extraction. And you apply these processes, and then you release your patient. And he is very glad that he has this tooth just in 20 minutes, in half an hour after extraction. Telescopic locking system. This is one of the fixing method of fixation. But now it's very, very expensive. And now when implantation is very highly developed, it's not so widely used, this one. But it includes internal crown and external crown. I will show you on the practical classes to everyone. Class processes. This is class processes. This is not class processes. This is wrong photo. This is attachment. This is very, very precious and very, very highly expensive method. But if there is no enough space for implantation in these parts of jaw, for example, especially in the lower jaw, for example, or in the lateral regions of maxilla, you can use this one. But this is here is many bad features of this processes, because you need to prepare at least two teeth from each side of your processes for fixing this part. This is attachment. Reinforced bases for processes. It increases rigidity and increases exploitation period. Yes. Metal base. Yes. It's over. It's over. Let's return to this one. Let's return to this one. This. Here are two types. This is only for making this process more rigid, more hard. Yes. And this is arc processes. And the main indication is to reduce plastic cariness of membrane mucosa. Yes. It's very, very important for different types of patients. I will send you this lecture in the WhatsApp chat. I will download this to YouTube, my YouTube channel, and give you a link. You can see it there, and if you need, you can ask me some questions. If something is not clear for you. Thank you. Bye bye.